Hi, I'm Kelly, and I'm going to show you how to sew a super simple scrub cap. You need fabric, thread, pins, a sewing machine, and basic sewing skills. Let's get started. I've already cut my fabric. I have two pieces like this, two pieces like this, and two pieces of this for the top. The link to the pattern I used is below. This could have been cut on a fold, so it would already be one big piece. But these were cut separately, so the first thing I'm going to do is sew them together. I'm going to back stitch just a little bit at the beginning and the end, just like always. And you can sew the second one right behind it. No need to cut the thread. This is a reversible cap, so you can use two different fabrics for the inside and the outside. So now I have two pieces that look like this. So I'm going to lay one out and lay the other right sides together on top of it. I'm going to pin it a little bit. I'm not going to waste too much time pinning it, but just pin here and there. I'm using a 3/8 inch seam allowance. You can use whatever works best for you. And then you're going to sew from just this side of center all the way around. You just pivot at the corners all the way to this corner and all the way up to the top. You'll leave a gap of about 5 or 6 inches so you can turn it. Remember to not sew over your pins. Again, when you get to the corner, just pivot, keep on going. Okay, I left a few inches so I can turn it right side up. Before you turn it, you want to clip your corners. Just be careful not to clip into the seam. If your pattern has extra piece at the top, you can clip that off. And you're going to turn it right side out. They make a special tool to help you turn corners out, which I do not have. So I use a pen. You can use a small screwdriver. Just be careful you don't use anything too sharp so you don't poke through. And just poke it out as best you can. It won't be a super sharp point. The same thing for the other side. There you go. Just poke it out the best you can. So now you have these two pieces sewn together, kind of like an arch, and you have an opening at the top. So you're just going to turn that under. Just use your fingers, no need to pin. Turn it under and press it, and then sew along the opening. So I press it to make it easier to sew. And then top stitch, start just past the opening, back up, and stitch close to the side, a very short seam allowance. Go just past it, back stitch, and clip. Okay, so this is what you've got. Next, you take your two pieces of the top, and this is where it gets a little tricky. You're going to lay one down, right side facing up, and then take your big piece and lay it on top of it. So you're basically going to sandwich this in between the two top pieces. Like that. And take this piece again, right side down this time. So all right sides are together. And you're going to pin. This time you're going to pin a lot. So once you get started, you're going to ease this into this curve. So you want to use a lot of pins. Use more pins than you think you need. You're going to pin it's less than an inch, maybe every half an inch or so. You're going to pin all three pieces together very tightly. And again, you're easing the straight edge into the curve. So there's going to be a little overlap here and there, almost like little tiny pleats, but not official pleats. Just keep pinning till you get to the bottom edge. The more you pin, the easier it will be to sew. See what it looks like so far? Got all three pieces pinned together pretty tightly. Doesn't matter if your pins are evenly spaced or not. This is the part that takes the longest on this cap. I'm part of a group that is sewing face masks and caps for healthcare workers mostly, and people who deal with the public. And the nurses especially are asking for more and more of these caps because their supplies are low at their hospital and they end up wearing a cap all day. And so they're made of woven cotton, so they can withstand a lot of washings, repeated washings, and they can withstand the high temperatures of the washing of the laundry at the hospitals. So you're going to pin right to the edge. If you look at this side, you can see that the curve ends and then there's a straight edge. You're going to pin right to that corner. So once you've done that one side, flip it over and do the same thing down the other side. Same exact thing. Just ease it in. And this gets easier as you go. If you make more than one, it gets easier. The first one I made took quite a while. The second one took less than half that time. This is number 10 for the day.
Keep pinning, don't rush this step. Can you hear the dogs barking?
All right, almost to the corner. One more pin. So what you're going to end up with is the pins all around the perimeter, and the bulk of the hat is going to be bunched up inside. This is what it looks like when it's just pinned and before it's sewn. So you can see the tails, the ties are hanging down below, and the inside of the cap is bunched up among these pins. So now I'm going to sew. I'm going to start at one corner and sew all the way around to the other corner. Some people like to baste before you sew the final seam. I just go with the pins and sew. Be careful not to sew over your pins. Just pull them out as you go. Take your time. I'm going to start at one corner and stitch and back stitch and then stitch. I'm using a 3/8 inch seam allowance here as well. Pull them out as you go. Take your time. If you have to stop at every pin, that's fine. Just follow the curve right around. If you get off the seam allowance, just stop and adjust it. Keep sewing all the way around till you get to the other corner, back stitch, and stop. This is what it looks like. I'm going to snip off these tails. Be careful not to go too close to the seam allowance when you cut it because you'll clip into the inside part. Now I'm going to sew these two straight edges on the bottom. If your edges are not the same size, like you see mine is not, don't worry about it. Not a problem. Just sew what you've got. Start at the stitching you just left off on and end at the end of the shortest one. Push the tails out of the way. You don't want to sew the tails in this stuff. And same thing for the other side. Push the tails out of the way, finger pin that together, and sew. If it's off a little bit, if one side's longer than the other, don't worry about it. Stuck there. Try that again. Back stitch. Sew up to the old stitching and clip. Now you're going to turn it right side out. Just take your time. You don't want to push too hard or you risk pulling your stitches out. Push it out. Give it a little shake. You can fit your hand in there. Push your fingers up in there to pop the seam out. Now you're going to take the unfinished edges there. Turn them under. You're going to turn the raw edge under on each side and then press it and sew. So I pressed the raw edges under and now I'm just going to sew from one end to the other. Back stitch. Or the short seam allowance. Flip your threads. And you're done. Now you've got a reversible scrub cap. Can go either way. And the way you wear it, put this up. You're going to fold this up, and I think it's easier to fold it up before you put it on, but you can fold it up after you put it on. So fold it up, get it where you want it. Off center, there we go. And then you're going to tuck that flap down and tie over top of it in the back. And if you have a ponytail or a bun back there, you can tuck it up in there. There's your finished product.